I'm Ada. I care for my husband, Ben. He was diagnosed with dementia 4.5 years ago.
My name is Jerry, and I care for my wife with Alzheimer's for 10 years. She passed in October, but I still want to stay involved in this process.
My name is Keith. My wife came into Alzheimer's probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And she was RN at a college and realized that she couldn't keep going.
My name is Lynn. I care for my husband George, who has dementia, and I've been his caregiver for about 8 years now.
My name is Bonnie, and I care for my husband Robert. He has MS. He was diagnosed in 1985, and as time went, then it became obvious he had dementia.
The symptoms are so different because with different individuals, Joyce started about at the same age that your wife did. And there's so many kinds of dementia, it's very difficult to communicate to bank tellers or to store clerks or servers in restaurants. But there are some obvious things that, when somebody is not responding normally, and if you go to the same place several times and, the spouse or friend or whomever it might be always responds the same way, you think that would be a sign that maybe something's wrong here, and that they would begin to understand.
My name is Laureen Bauer, and I am the administrator at Willow Springs Alzheimer's Special Care Center. If you encounter someone who is in a store or in a restaurant who seems confused, it doesn't quite seem to have a handle on where they are, then it might be a good thing to see if you can offer some assistance.
My name is Maggie McNamara. I'm a family consultant, caregiver advocate with Passages Caregiver Resource Center. According to the Alzheimer's Association, most doctors aren't telling about half of their patients that they may have Alzheimer's disease. So people don't even know. They may just realize that something's not quite right and think, oh, it's just aging. But dementia is not a normal part of aging. What we're learning now is that probably people who have Alzheimer's have had it for 7 to 10 years before it's ever even diagnosed.
Dementia is an umbrella term that is actually not a term for a disease. It's a set of symptoms or a syndrome. And so dementia is marked by short-term memory loss, confusion, loss of ability to make good decisions or to follow ordered steps. And there are a number of diseases that cause dementia. There are, I believe, over 50 different kinds of dementia. Alzheimer's disease is the one that is best known, and it accounts for about 50% of people living with dementia have Alzheimer's disease. This is the only major cause of death in the top 10 for which there is no cure and no way to slow down. And I think that there is a movement nationally to understand what's going on with Alzheimer's disease, but to think that it's the only cause of death in the top 10 for which there's nothing that can slow it down or stop it.
Have you ever been in a situation where you're out somewhere and your spouse acted in a peculiar way, or maybe got confused, or and somebody responded because they didn't understand, just like you? Yeah. Any examples, or are you just going to shake your head?
We were in a restaurant.
Yeah.
We were in a restaurant, and it was a restaurant that we frequented quite a bit, and so we knew most of the servers. And we had a new server come up. At that time, I tried not to answer for him. I mean, I wanted him to make that decision. Of course, now you can't make a decision, but about what he wanted to eat. And he said, well, I don't know. And the waitress says, well, you better hurry up because I don't have all day. And I was beside myself. I just didn't even know how to respond to that, you know, and I said, he'll have a cup of soup and a half a BLT.
And all the other waitresses knew George, and they
Oh, yeah.
just
Yeah, and they, I mean, you know, they'd stand there and wait for him to order, or he would say, you know, maybe you should come back. Of course, they'd come back, and he still didn't know what he wanted, but.
so they really even knew what he was going to
Yeah,
order.
they would
gave
say,
him
well, how
that-
about a cup of soup and half a sandwich? He says, yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Lynn conveyed to us that the look on his face, he was so hurt just by that. You know, if somebody did that to us, we just probably wouldn't leave him a tip. But that really affected him. So it's important. That's one of the reasons I think it's important that people understand. Most people with dementia live in the moment. So all that happened to George at that moment was that she hurt his feelings. Now, would he remember later? Probably not. But if it was a big hurt, he'd remember for a while. People can present so well, especially in the early and middle stages. They're really just like you and me, but they forget or they get confused. And when that happens, they may become afraid. We can figure our way out of it, and they can't. The idea behind Purple City originated with Kathy Broggie in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee. She'd seen an idea in England. He was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and he recognized that he was going to need more help than just his family, because he wanted to continue to do as much as he could for as long as he could. So they went out in the community and explained what that meant, early onset Alzheimer's, dementia, and what people might notice if he was having a difficult time and how they can help him. I thought if the community here could become more compassionate, that they would be able to help people when they needed it. And everybody needs to know about this, because we're having, it almost feels like an epidemic of dementia.
I think if we could talk to the people or have a way to communicate with the, say, the banks and the normal places, to have them help educate the people that you're going to have people come and eradicate. If you have a problem, get somebody in front that can handle it with compassionately. Don't get upset. And I know it's hard to do with the people in the world, but you know, if you yell and scream at them, that's the worst thing you can possibly do. You have to show compassion.
People are not aware, and the only way to make them aware is by putting it out there. I mean,
It's not going to go away.
no, and more
And
people
there's
are affected
more-
by it than you even think.
And younger people.
And younger
now
people,
it's
yeah.
beginning, you know, in the 50s and 40s.
Yeah.
You know, before, back in when I was a kid, it was my poor aunt was senile. So you kept her in the bedroom by herself. I mean, that's what you did. It was a stigma, but nowadays, and we're living longer, and so all of a sudden these diseases are coming that they can identify, but yet they're coming so much younger, the people.
It takes a lot of compassion, because, like with Robert, the average person would not know anything's wrong with him, and then he does something strange, and so like the woman at the bank, and I told her that he had some dementia going on, and that was good that time, but he acts so normal, they forget.
I'm Marcy, and I work at Lulu's restaurant, and I've worked here 30 years. And it's not like it happens all the time. I would say I've seen it happen maybe 10 times in the last 30 years. Believe it or not, We know those people because they've come to our restaurant for 20 years, you know, and then all of a sudden, dementia center or whatever, and then they still can't remember where they're at. So that's what makes it nice too, because we've known them, and it is easier to help a person like that. And it's hard to see from here to here, you know, just like yesterday, they were great, and then all of a sudden the next day, you know, they're not. It's amazing how fast it can happen.
If you watch people, you can tell something's not quite right. So the important thing, to stay calm, to be reassuring, do your best to help them through it. It may be, if they can't tell you who they are, that you'll have to ask them, you know, for their ID or what is, but don't treat them like children, but treat them with respect. Treat them actually like we're sitting here talking now, just another human being who's having a little bit of a tough time, and they won't have such a tough time if you stay calm. But if you don't stay calm, they'll probably become agitated and afraid.
Absolutely, I think anything that could help us understand something better is beneficial. It takes something drastic to happen to be, you know, for you to see that, oh, we better find out more information about this. You know, a lot of times things you don't realize until it actually happens to you that we do need to look into it more.
A lot of challenges that arise with dementia are rooted in some unmet need, or due to the fact that they're in an environment where they feel unstable or out of control. One of the things that I think you want to do is always be careful in your approach. You want to approach someone who is in a crisis slowly. You want to come from the side. If you come right from the front, it's a very confrontational approach. Ask, is there something that I can help you with? Simply demonstrate that you are there and that you're willing to help. What I have learned professionally is that there is never a purpose to arguing with someone who has dementia or trying to get them to remember, because it's impossible.
Well, we all are laughing, but we can laugh about all these things because we've all been through them. But you take somebody who doesn't know all the Alzheimer's or any kind of dementias and stuff, they probably think we're cruel.
I used to cry
But-
a lot. I
Yes.
used to go to bed and I
Cry.
just cry.
We all did.
Yeah.
But now we get together because everybody's been through it or is going through it. So you do have to laugh. You can look back at your loved one and see the little things. And just like in our support groups we do, we all laugh about things or cry about things. But it's so important for us to release it and get it out with the people that understand us.
And you get so much crying or frustrating that you grab hold and hang on to the laughter.
Yeah. I remember the first day I came to the support group, the chairs all around the table were taken. And so I took a chair at the back. I didn't want to interrupt. I was a little bit late getting there and I didn't want to interrupt. And at the very end, I think Maggie asked a question about, does anybody have any questions or have anything else to say? And I hadn't said anything the whole time. And I just exploded. I said, I am so glad that I came today. I'm so glad to know there are other people that are going through this, that I'm not alone. Someplace that I can come and talk to people that'll shake their head and say, yeah, I understand. I've been there, you know.
I thought you said shave their head.
Yeah, that too. We all need to shave our head like Jerry.
The best way to support people in the future would be to support research, support legislation that helps people with dementia and their caregivers, and be nice.